listening to Footscray Live.
Welcome everyone, broadcasting live from Footscray City College. You're listening to Footscray Live. My name is Taylor, and with me today I have Marley, Stanley, Hannah and Gronya. This is the new show, and our special guest today is Dominic Scarf from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. Hello Dominic, and welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me here at Footscray City Live.
So Dominic, why don't you just quickly talk to us about what you do at the Fire Brigade?
What do I do at the Fire Brigade? I'm a commander down in our Risk and Resilience Department down at Burnley, and some of my roles there, so I coordinate a junior fire awareness intervention program, so that's for minors under the age of 18, involved in, may have some fire lighting habits, and we run a program or intervention program for those. We run a seniors fire safety program there, so it's where some of our retired firefighters go out into the community and deliver fire safety presentations to older people living alone, so they may be part of a Probus club or a Rotary or Apex club, and they deliver it there. We also coordinate our fire ed program, which some of you may have done in primary school. So we run fire ed program in preps in primary schools and again in grade 6. What else? We have a Fit to Drive program that I have people that coordinate for me, and that's where a group of people go out into secondary schools and they run through a decision-making scenario around car accidents and young people when they just get their licence, going to parties and not drinking and those sorts of things. On top of that, I've got an operational role, so at any time between 7 in the morning and 5 o'clock at night, I could be asked to respond to a fire or an incident of a certain size and be the incident controller at that fire.
What inspired you to join the brigade?
What inspired me? Oh, look, there's a little bit of self-interest there as well. I was tucked away as a secondary school teacher out at Deer Park, of all places, and I had a few friends who were in the fire brigade, and it looked like a good job. They had there was some good conditions. There was a lot of interaction with the community, so I was interested in that. In the teaching role, I was obviously interacting with younger people, but the opportunity to go to work each day, potentially do something different was really good.
You talked about being a teacher before you were a firefighter. Did you always know that you wanted to become a teacher?
Did I always want to be a teacher? Look, it was one of those things. I do a lot of sport, a lot of physical activity. In my last 2 years at school, it seemed a logical thing to do. I went and became a physical education teacher in science and did that for a few years. The challenge there, I think, is sometimes if you're passionate about your sport, that doesn't necessarily transfer into being passionate about your role teaching other people. I think it's the same with, say, art teachers or people who want to be creative. To actually teach maybe some people who don't want to be creative is a bit of a challenge, and it's the same in physical education.
So what caused you from going to a teacher to then working for the Fire Brigade?
What caused me, as I said, I had some friends in it who suggested it'd be something good to do. I had to wait until they advertised, so that took a while. And then they have quite a rigorous process to get in. So you have a series of academic testing. So you've got to do some sort of group interviews. Then they have some physical fitness assessment, and then they have like a skills test where you've got to be able to do certain things with hoses and climb a ladder and in a certain amount of time and walk along a balance beam and those sorts of things. And then you have some interviews at the end, and you start, if you're successful, you start a recruiting process.
Dominic, what's the scariest situation that you've ever been involved?
Scariest situation is, probably a couple of times where you go to a very large fire. So I was stationed just down the road on Drip Street at Footscray.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you know, they have what we call a ladder platform there that goes 44 metres up in the air.
Yeah.
So at a big fire, they'll call on that appliance. So being up in that cage, 40 metres above a fire, that's a little bit challenging.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of your work?
Look, the most rewarding part I'd probably get is, if you go to an event or something and a fire or a car accident or something and no one's hurt and everyone gets out okay, and you've been able to help them, that's very rewarding. The other thing is, I suppose, in the risk and resilience work I do, it's very rewarding working with at-risk groups in the community and being able to provide some assistance to them when they're not aware of the risks in the environment they're living in, and you're able to point those out and make some changes for them to make it a safer environment for them to live in.
Stanley here. What are the qualities that you need to have to be a good firefighter?
Qualities to be a good firefighter? Look, I think they vary a lot from person to person. So when we have a crew out on a truck, you'll find that a lot of those people might have slightly different skills or different qualities. So some people on the truck might have very good leadership and direction type skills. Others might be very practical. So we have quite a few people who have been tradesmen or tradespeople join the fire brigade, both male and female, and they have a certain skill set that's very useful on the fire ground. Because when you go to a fire or a car accident, everything's a little bit different. So it's not the same thing every single time. So it's not like, you're putting something together repetitively. Things are always different, a little bit different.
Can a Metro firefighter be equally comfortable fighting a bushfire in the country, or do you need specialised training?
You definitely need specialised training to fight a bushfire in the country. The response systems, in my view, are different. So in the metro area, we need to get to a structure fire very quickly. We make sure there's no one who needs to be rescued, and then we make sure we set up ourselves to stop the fire from spreading, and then we contain it and put it out. With a bushfire, they tend to obviously they've requested that people be evacuated early, and their fire is around containment and working with the weather, the change of weather, backburning, things like that to put it out. MFB, when we do go into bushfire areas, we usually go in to look after the towns, to protect the towns and the assets there, so that if the bushfire does get too close, they can protect those properties so people don't lose their homes or important infrastructure. Yeah.
Now that you're mentioning, working as a metropolitan firefighter, you have to get to obviously the location very quickly and evacuate people as quick as possible. I'm sure it must be very stressful and anxious. So how do you cope with sort of like that stress and anxiety?
So when you get the call at the station, or if you're out on the road, you get a certain amount of information about what's there, and usually they'll tell you if there's maybe persons unaccounted for or people trapped. So you get definitely get a bit of an adrenaline rush. Yeah. You get there, you've had lots of training, you've had lots of practice, you work as a team, you've got other trucks coming in to support you. And first priority is obviously to provide some protection for yourselves, but also if there's someone inside, there's a level of risk that you knowingly take on when you to go into the building and try and find that person. Yeah.
Before we talked about what is the most rewarding part of your job, what is the most challenging part of your job?
Challenging part of the job would be where you go to events where either that there's been a fatality or people seriously injured. So it could be a fire, it could be a car accident, it could be an industrial accident. So someone's been hurt in a factory or by machinery. And the other ones that are quite hard is you may not know, Metropolitan Fire Brigade go to medical response.
Yeah.
So we turn out at the same time as an ambulance for someone who might be not breathing, unconscious, no pulse. And so we're starting from quite a low level. We're starting with someone who technically is, some people would say, they're not alive. So the likelihood of us getting them back is quite low. Yeah. We've had, well over 100 successful, bringing people back over the years. But so that's a challenge too. When you go to those, I've been to say 4 in a day. Usually in nursing homes, things like that. They're old people. So that's a challenge dealing with that. You go there, you're exposed or confronted with the situation, and there's not a lot you can do in many cases. Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, you're currently listening to the new show on Footscray Live, and our special guest is Dominic Scarf from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. I just want to ask Dominic, obviously you mentioned before, you have to do lots of training. So how often do you actually train?
How often do we train? So most firefighters would, for their physical fitness, they'd be in the gym on their 4-day cycle, so they go in there most days and most nights, unless there was a big fire or something they had to be at. Usually on their days off, they do some physical activity, so a lot of them run, ride bikes, things like that. Every month we have a series of skills or drills that we have to go through, so some of them are just like video presentations. Other than will be practical, where we go somewhere and we run the pump. So every day they might run the pump, put water through it, go to some open water and draw water out of a river or a dam or something like that to practice that. We've got a training complex out at Craigieburn. We call it Femtech, and we've got a whole lot of different scenarios there, different buildings, houses, factories, a railway station, like a mock airport, a ship, and they go there and we practice on those. Yeah.
What are some tips about fire safety at home, and do we need to take particular care over the Christmas holidays?
So, look, tips at home, majority of all our fires start in kitchens, okay, and I've got some data here for the municipality of Maribyrnong, and they're no different. You're actually lower than some of the other municipalities, which is good. 18.6% of your fires start a result of cooking equipment. So there's the tips is in the kitchen is to, don't leave the kitchen, don't leave the cooking unattended. So always keep an eye on what you're doing. Make sure there's an adult there, so, you know, if your child or teenager is helping, make sure there's a parent there assisting. A very common one we're getting now is a lot of all the electrical appliances that kids have, so all the chargeable laptops and iPads and those electric scooters and all those sorts of things in their bedrooms, etc. Make sure they're not on your bed, make sure they're not on the couch, so they need good airflow around them while they're charging or when they're on, so that can cause fires. The other home fire safety thing we really are trying to emphasise at the moment is the concept of smoke alarms and them being interconnected and in your bedroom. So when you go to sleep, little joke, your nose goes to sleep as well, so you can't smell smoke. If you sleep with your bedroom door shut and the smoke alarm's outside in the hallway,
You won't be able to hear it.
you won't hear it, or if the fire starts in your room, the smoke won't get to the one out in the hallway to wake you up. So we suggest if you sleep with your doors closed, best practice is for every bedroom to have a smoke alarm in it. And an even better practice is for them to be interconnected, so that if one goes off, they all go off.
Alert the whole house.
Alert the whole house. So if it goes off in your room, you can get out. You can make sure everyone else in the house is alerted to it as you exit the house. Go to your meeting point and call the fire service. That sort of thing.
So with the New South Wales fires, how can we offer our support for the New South Wales fires, and do you think anything similar will ever happen in Victoria?
Look, we've had similar things happen in Victoria in the past, long before your time. When I was at university, we had Ash Wednesday in 1983, where a large part of the state burnt, a lot of fatalities. 2009, we had Black Saturday, where again a large part of the state burnt, a lot of smoke, that sort of thing over the cities, etc. What can we do to help up in New South Wales? So currently we've been sending task forces up there, so they're made up of five trucks with crews on, and they'll go up there for a week to assist. Now, what they'll normally do is provide relief for the stations. So some of the stations might be out fighting the bushfire, and our crews will backfill those stations and help them, or protect, as I said, protect property assets, things like that. They won't actually be in the forests. That's usually a role for specialist firefighting crews. But look, we'll have it again in Victoria. We're very fortunate this year. At this stage, we haven't, but they're anticipating a hot summer. So January, February, March will present some challenges for us.
What would you say are the qualities of a good firefighter?
Qualities of a good firefighter? Look, there's physical qualities and there's empathy, compassion, things like that. So you have to be able to go to a scenario, you've got to deal with it, and then you have to be able to communicate with the people who have been impacted on, help with their recovery. So their recovery might just be some emotional recovery, telling them what sort of services exist for them to get back up, make sure that they've got the right documents with them, things like that. So to make them feel positive about the situation they've been through and how they can actually assist themselves to recover.
Now that you mentioned, physical preparation, how do you mentally prepare for something like this?
How do you mentally prepare? Look, you go to work, you get into, you're in that environment of where you're an emergency responder. You can mentally prepare something. You can, the radio that we have, the radios constantly have communication going on them about what's happening in around Melbourne. So who's at this fire, what they're doing, what they're saying. So that's preparing you without you even being realised. So every time when you're out on the truck, you're listening to that. It keeps you prepared, keeps your mind ticking over to what the right process and procedures are, because you're hearing other people implementing them all the time. Yeah.
If someone wanted to become a firefighter, what is one piece of advice that you would give them?
One piece of advice I would say, if you don't succeed the first time, keep trying. Mm-hmm. So that's really important, because we do get a lot of people who try once and don't come back. You need to have a very good understanding of what the role is. So a great thing to do is maybe visit a fire station, talk to some firefighters.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand that you're on a shift system. You're not home for your birthday sometimes. You're not home for Christmas sometimes. You're not home for your partner's birthday or your daughter's or your son's birthday. So that can be a challenge. It's quite a physically demanding job. It's dangerous. You get exposure to chemicals, as we talked about earlier. So what's my one piece of advice? Yeah, really investigate as to whether that's what you want to do. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, now that you mentioned, if it's something you really want to do, sorry, I was just going to ask, what's it like, having such an important job? Like, do you ever feel pressure on yourself that you need to, that you have such an important role that could possibly change lives and save lives?
Look, there's definitely a feeling of that people are looking to you. So, there's an old fire brigade story where, we're walking into the building when everyone's running out. So obviously there's this weight of expectation on you. You turn up to a high-rise building in town and everyone's outside on the pavement looking to see what you're going to do and watching you, and you think you're being scrutinised. So, you're making sure that, you all look like you know what you're doing and that sort of thing. But, there's definitely a weight of expectation on you when you go to events.
And I just want to thank you so much, Dominic, for joining the show.
One more. Yes.
Oh no, it's your mic.
Just as a final question, what would you say was your favourite memory of having this career?
Look, there's some. I wrote down a couple of interesting ones. One of my first interesting ones was being called out to assist a blind man who had dropped his cane through a metal grate. Oh. So we turned up to that, and he just walked straight out of his house and had dropped down the grate. So we lifted the grate off and got his cane for him. So that was good. I've been called to get birds out of trees, which is fairly pointless because when you get there, they fly away. I've been to a lot of cat in trees, so that doesn't happen.
Wow.
Pets stuck in drains, stuck in between walls, all those sorts of things. And obviously, fatalities, things like that, which are quite sad as well. Even though we go through all that, we go through the sad stuff, we go through the good stuff. We've got a great peer support program that looks after us out of hours and that we can access, and either co-workers you can talk to have been trained or psychologists, things like that, who help us if you've got more challenging things going on in your mind, following jobs, things like that, Most rewarding would be, look, it's the prevention work we do. When you go to when someone's had a house fire and everyone's got out and they've called the fire brigade and they're out the front when the fire truck arrive, and they can say, my son who did the program in prep came home and made sure that we practiced a home escape plan and we did all these things. They're the things that are really rewarding because you see those long-term programs having an impact and being effective.
I think they truly do. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. That brings an end to a show. Again, thank you, Dominic, for joining us. Again, that was Dominic Scarf from the Metropolitan Fire Brigade. My name is Taylor, and I'd like to thank my panel of hosts, Marley, Stanley, Hannah, and Gronya. Thank you for listening to the new show on Footscray Live.
Thank you.